Hey guys, so a bit of context about this video. I actually scripted this months ago, but as of, well, I guess a couple weeks ago, I actually got laid off from Microsoft. This video is all about how I accidentally became a big tech PM and what I've learned. And I guess that journey's over and it's on to the next one. Here's how I accidentally went from frat boy to PM in big tech in 2 years without being a tryhard in college. If you're a CS or some kind of business or tech adjacent major in college and you don't know how to proceed, this video is kind of for you. And it's also just a place to share my experiences in case you're wondering. I went to UC Berkeley where everyone's trying to get into big tech. And I never considered myself part of, that crowd, the very, very heavy recruiting and corporate grinding crowd. But I ended up there anyway due to a bit of luck and honestly a lot of effort. So I guess before all of that, I went into college and I never really partied or dated. And I just got completely carried away trying to pursue those things, which involved a lot of drinking and other stuff. To sum it up, I was not acting my best. My dad always did want me to be an engineer. So I did computer science classes since high school and was okay at coding. And because of frat life, I had kind of gone off track. At Berkeley, the way that you declare CS when you're not in the engineering school like I was, is you first get some decent grades in a couple of weeder, harder classes, which I could not do at the time due to my lifestyle, of course. And three guiding principles that led me to PM and big tech in general. One was finding my real skill set and passions, as coding never really called to me. Two was honestly trying to prove myself to all the people who had seen me be an idiot in college that I wasn't an idiot. And three is not embellishing or lying about myself or my experiences, which is, I think, a surprising one for people who are recruiting for big tech. So these started me off on my journey. I had these three principles. I remember that summer. It was the summer of COVID lockdowns, and I had been sent home the semester before. I was just sitting there. I had read this book. It basically told me, like, hey, write down your guiding principles, write down what you've been doing wrong in life and what you could do better in life, and followed that. So that was the start. So here are the steps that I took after having those guiding principles. And this is not meant to be a blueprint, but this is what ended up happening. So I couldn't get an internship due to COVID, obviously, because I wasn't so focused back then. So I did my own thing with my friends. I was trying to build a platform to walk people through interactive tutorials through AWS without costing them money. So instead of like a video, it was like a simulation of the AWS console. And that kind of showed initiative and product leadership that you wouldn't get otherwise by just doing CS classes or being in CS clubs. I got my first internship at a decent company, and my interviewers took a liking to me. So that was one of the big parts. But then I also performed pretty well, which showed that I could function at a high level for at least my age in a corporate setting and as a product manager, which is more of a people influencing and maybe a little bit of leadership role rather than a strict individual contributor like a designer or a software engineer would be. And step three was getting my big tech internship and return offer. So with that being said, let's get started. So I already told you about where I came from, right? Not a good place, frat life. I mean, it was fun, but not anymore. So number one step was start up with my friends. And so I basically went into my junior year with nothing. And I actually attribute a lot of getting on the right path to my best friend, Neil. We basically tried to make an interactive lesson tutorial software to teach non-technical people how to use AWS. We recorded course content and we built an entire software on kind of mocking up the AWS console automatically and being able to walk people through, let's say, creating an EC2 instance. I actually got a lot of experience designing and making a product around a very clear problem statement that I wouldn't have gotten in, let's say, like your run-of-the-mill computer science class. So this obviously isn't too impressive on its own, but at the end of the day, we had made a full-fledged application with some real users on our website. It was like tens, but there were some. But this fell apart quickly. So step two, my first internship. I finished this whole thing in maybe October, and my friends are saying, hey, you need to apply to internships. Like, you need to actually get a job this time. And so, I had missed all the big tech applications, and I still did not declare computer science because I basically hadn't gotten my computer science skills and knowledge up to the level where they needed to be in order to make up for all that lost time when I was just doing frat BS. And after all that experience doing kind of my own thing, my friend Neil suggested I should become a PM, and he is on my butt about interviewing, prepping me, and preparing like I never had. And I began hardcore recruiting. So first I get my resume right, and I never did I never actually did the whole keyword gaming stuff. I just actually put what I did, which probably isn't standard. And then I got my cover letter template right. These are all tips from, I think, cracking the PM interview. And then after that, I interview prepped for coding and behaviorals like crazy because I still thought like I was going to be a software engineer, even though Neil was telling me to be a PM. And so I applied to like 200 internships. And whether by the grace of God or by my own hard work, I get 3 coding internships from pretty decent companies. During one of these internships, my 2 interviewers were PMs. Even though I got the software engineering internship for that specific company, I kind of told them that, hey, like these were my previous experiences. I managed a really small team of devs. I did all the product thinking and design work. And I like that jack of all trades kind of skill set and mentality. And they took a liking to me. And so before the first day of that internship, I actually had no clue that I was going to be a PM. I literally took that internship because it was the biggest company that I got an internship with. Plus, it was the best paying. I think it was like $30 an hour. So nothing crazy. I was a B2B PM at a pretty big cloud or I guess on-prem server farm company. So you could probably guess which one. It was in the Fortune 500. I worked very hard with my co-interns and we basically spent the entire summer interviewing real enterprise customers, getting a good understanding of the product because it's kind of esoteric due to it being B2B. You know, it's not like I'm working at Facebook and I'm saying like, hey, this button is the wrong color or something. And we won that company's internship competition over literally hundreds of other interns. And so this was kind of a pivotal point in my life because it was the first time that I had actually made money besides working at McDonald's like the summer after high school. And I was just really happy, especially after the 2 years of me being kind of a screw up, that someone had just given me responsibility and trusted me responsibility for basically the first time in my life. I also had a lot of encouragement from my 2 managers. So shout out Gail and Martin, if they're probably not watching this, but if they ever watch this. And at that point, I was finally in a good spot. And luckily, I had convinced my parents to give me 1 more semester at Berkeley under the condition that I would pay for all of it. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted to get my double major. I had a major in data science, and I also wanted to get one in economics. Data science, for all the Berkeley heads out there, that's for the people who can't declare CS in the letters and sciences, which is basically the Bachelor of Arts college. And so with this new experience and then proof of a bit of competence under my belt, like having a decent internship and then doing well at that internship quantifiably, I got emboldened to apply to all sorts of internships, just PM focused though. And I applied to big tech, got 1 interview. That company happened to be Microsoft. And my old company actually wanted me to be a data science intern, which I was not the most enthused about, especially because I was a PM intern the year before, the summer before, and I did so well and they still didn't want me to be a PM. And I appreciate that opportunity, but I think they just looked at my degree and was like, he should be a data scientist. After getting accepted to the Microsoft first interview, I was basically like crapping my pants, trying to prepare for it. Then I just show up to the first interview. It's like a short 45-minute phone call. And the guy was like the most genuine guy. I think I had an interview about a product design case and I gave him an okay idea and he said, yeah, that was good. So after that, I advanced to the next round. I think it was like a couple weeks before I heard back. And after years of screwing up, I saw this as my chance to like absolutely redeem myself. I prepared my butt off again for the second round interviews, but for real this time. Like I'm talking like winter break. I mean, this is probably standard stuff, but for me, I was late to the game. But winter break, all day at the library, like 8 to 10 hours a day. Not standard work for me back then, but now it's less than standard work. And yeah, and I got grilled for 4 hours by 4 rounds of interviewers straight on all my experiences and case questions, and I got the internship. So unfortunately, the battle's not over because an internship doesn't always guarantee you a job after you graduate. And in these companies, I think it more does than not, especially Microsoft. I think some of my friends at Meta had some more issues, but I was basically completely out of my element. Fortunately for me, it was basically big corporate summer camp. It was lots of fun. I was making like $45 an hour, which is like crazy money to me. And I meet a lot of great, smart people. Genuinely, I think these companies just lump all the smartest people together. Obviously, smart people have their problems too. I work my absolute butt off during these internships. I put time into the internship that I probably honestly did not have to get the return offer, but I did learn a lot. And I think I just let my hunger for learning and experience and finally feeling competent after the years of not being very competent. And I think deservedly, I got the return offer. So yeah, after that, I got my return offer. I was working on like the MSN team at Microsoft. If you have a Windows computer and you see the taskbar, I was working on the thing, there's a weather widget that if you click on it, it gives you a whole pane of news. That's what I was working on. And yeah, I worked on that for around 2 years. If you're on the Windows 10 version, I made it progressively bigger in the last year and a half, if you've noticed that. So that was me. And I didn't really like it, right? Like, it was everything that I had dreamed about. And I had really tried in the last 2 years, so I didn't really have time to sit down and think about what I wanted, or I guess at that point I probably hadn't explored enough to know that. So, I'm working there. My girlfriend at the time breaks up with me, and I have like this crisis of identity. And I'm thinking like, what would actually make me happy? Because I'm sure some people would be delighted to work on, a news product that touches literally tens or hundreds of millions of users. But for me, I soon found out that it wasn't it. And I kept trying to convince myself that I liked it because of the impact that I was making. But I don't know, if for any of my friends who know me, I don't use any sort of social media. So working on a product that is like free for giving your time for some ad spend, not my thing, at least. But I had a lot of takeaways. I think from this entire experience, I think effort, love of learning, and genuine desire to find your strengths trumps desire for status and money, at least when you're young and inexperienced. Luckily for me, my skills and my background let me get into something where it's not super technical. I am working in big tech. It's like sort of prestigious. I was using the skills that I genuinely liked, not just coding because it made me a bunch of money. And I like that about being a PM. I did. I'm still young. I'm like 25 years old. Some lessons I guess I had are just always humble yourself, because you think you're everything. You think you're hot shit when you get the internship, or you think you're hot shit when you get the full-time offer, and then you just get beat down and down again. And I think recognizing when you're getting beat down and having that fire to learn rather than just accept your bad feelings or circumstances, that's, I think, a cornerstone of success for everyone, whether you're the most talented person in the world or you were born with nothing. Number 2 is maybe counterintuitive to some, but I think tell the truth. I think a big part of me getting my first and my second internships were I basically told the complete truth. I found that every time that I embellished something or lied, like throughout my life, like I'm talking college applications or even like a few of the interviews that I didn't get, people are smarter than you think. Maybe I just have a horrible poker face, but every time I've told the truth and was honest to who I was, even if my path along the road, I wasn't so far down that road of where I needed to be at whatever age I was or whatever position I was, like telling the truth, I think just shows your genuineness and your, not only your honesty with, whoever's interviewing you, but your honesty with yourself and your ability to reflect and grow. And I think that's, especially when you're young, that's just a core thing above skills, obviously at that age, when you don't have too many hard skills, even if you've been going to a glittering school with the glittering degree, that's what these people are looking for. And the last tip I have is find who you are. My dad had the best intentions. My dad is a great engineer. He's more technical than I'll ever be. A very smart guy. But he pushed me on a path that I didn't necessarily like. And it's important to not dig yourself in a hole, right? I see a lot of people my age, and I have some direct examples, but I won't say them here, but a lot of people go for the money. I think in the long run, if you dedicate yourself to whatever craft you want to be, whether that's like a costume designer or a doctor or a coder, designer, PM, or I don't know, even just I don't want to say just, but even a construction manager. If you are the best at what you do, money will be of no shortage to you, at least in reasonable terms. So what's being a PM in big tech actually like? So I learned a lot of things in my time there. Even if it wasn't my favorite experience, it was certainly great work hours. Microsoft is like known by the tech bros in Seattle as their retirement home. I can see why people think that, to be honest with you. And the people there are great. Like, I think maybe it's because of the environment, everyone's so laid back, but maybe that's about to change. I would say being a PM in big tech teaches you and is about leadership, speaking up and asserting your opinion, communication skills, and planning and orchestration. Those are by far the most important things for a PM. I think especially when you're young, it's really daunting to be able to speak up in a room full of seniors. But if you assert your opinion and you have very clear reasons as to why you've arrived to that opinion, like let's say, I want to do this feature because the past data shows this, or the users have been clearly complaining about this. If you have an opinion and you're able to back it up, people respect it. And if you know in your heart of hearts that it's the right opinion to have. Communication skills, of course, is very, very important. I was not the best employee because very early on I realized I wanted to do other things. And so I don't think my heart was completely in my job, even if I, on paper performed very well, like with internal reviews and stuff. But the one thing that I always got great marks for that people even told me that I was good at was communication, very clear communication. I'm not sure if this YouTube video that's like half scripted, half not, helps that come across, but yeah, communication skills are very important. They just help you. That's what sets you apart, honestly, in large part from IC start of career engineers. You're basically able to take what they're saying and communicate it to leadership or other managers or other teams, or even just compile everyone's opinions into a spec. It's all communication. And planning and orchestration is very important. Being very organized, making sure everyone's on top of their game as well, because obviously you're not doing the execution, you're driving the execution as a PM, at least at Microsoft. That's a core part of the skill set as well. So next, I just want to talk about people in big tech. So people in big tech, in my experience, everyone is super smart. I did not meet a single person where I thought this guy's not up to par. Whereas when I went to Berkeley, there were definitely some people who I thought were questionable admits. I'm sure a lot of people thought that I was a questionable admit for the first 2 years of my college experience. But the thing about people in big tech is that it's a bit too corporate for my liking. Maybe it was Microsoft in particular, but I did feel like everyone's kind of there just to chill. And that used to be my vibe, but it's not anymore. And lastly, don't ever become complacent. As I had mentioned, I had a breakup very soon after I started my career. It kind of just crashed my self-esteem and made me take a good look at who I was and where I didn't measure up to even my own standards. It made me realize I had come a long way in the last 2 years. Like I had gotten my first internship, then, gotten this PM offer at Microsoft and this and that. But I was riding the ego wave of getting paid a lot of money and being in big tech and not having to code and this and that. And it wasn't healthy. It wasn't a healthy place to derive any sort of self-worth or ego from. Yeah. And it basically made me take a good hard look at myself and realize hey, I have friends who are entrepreneurs. I have family members who are entrepreneurs, and I've always wanted to try it wholeheartedly. Having complete ownership over your outcomes and yourself is something that I've always wanted. And I've been, now I'm pursuing that, of course, after I got laid off. I think the third thing is money alone will not solve your real problems. Those of character, purpose, and discipline. When my girlfriend at the time, my ex, broke up with me, I had a huge crash in self-worth. I just felt like crap about myself, and maybe the rose-colored glasses got ripped a little too hard off, but the money from Microsoft maybe patted my ego a bit, but I knew what I was doing wasn't exactly what I wanted to be doing, even though it was really plush, it was really nice, and everyone around me was smart and nice, but it's just not where I wanted to be. Yeah, the money didn't help. I have nicer clothes now. I have a nicer car now, but did those things make me happy? Maybe a little bit. No, I'm kidding. No, they didn't. And yeah, so looking at what's next, I think is the key, right? You always want to look at what's next. Whether that's finding your own path or learning within the corporate world, both are great as long as you're being true to yourself. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed me talking about my experiences. Kind of documents basically 3 or 4 years of my life. But yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and have a good one.